Thank you guys for joining me here on the last segment of today's show, and I wanted to give a shout out to the running backs because it hasn't been only me that has kind of brought it up that the running backs are sort of making a comeback here in 2024. It feels like other people are now realizing it, and just based on this quote that I have here that we're going to get into, but the major players in this sort of revival for the running backs have obviously been Derrick Henry as the main guy leading it forward. So far this year, he's been, flirting with history a little bit, right? He's on pace to break Eric Dickerson's rushing record. People are really having serious conversations about him being the MVP. He's probably not going to win it because the quarterbacks always win it, but he's having that type of year, a historical year for a running back. It's been super impressive, and if he gets the Ravens to a Super Bowl and say they win it, it'll be hard to kind of disprove or argue the kind of importance that not only he has to the Ravens but also what other running backs are doing. You look at Saquon Barkley in his first year with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's having a great year so far himself. Henry leads in rushing yards at 873 already. Saquon is third with 658 rushing yards total so far. Both are top two in rushing yards per game. You look elsewhere at Joe Mixon, and while the loss of Nico Collins has been huge, I think this team definitely severely missed Joe Mixon, and just as soon as he comes back, he pops off another 100-yard game, and he's doing great things in Houston as well. So I think these three guys, also looking at Alvin Kamara and what he did, at least at the start of the year, and how everybody is, all these teams are really performing very well with some of the best running backs as well. And I think the running backs are really becoming and have been some of the biggest stars in today's game. You look at some of the other teams, the Lions, right? David Montgomery, he gets a contract extension alongside Jahmyr Gibbs. Both of these guys are huge pieces to the puzzle for a Lions team that's arguably one of the best in the NFL. You look at the Vikings with Aaron Jones, they're doing amazing things too. And I'm sure I'm missing some off the top of my head here. But you get the overarching theme of it all. The Commanders, you can throw them in there as well. Brian Robinson's doing a great job. Their running game is very well executed with him, Jaden Daniels, and Austin Eckler. So I'm sure there's other teams, but you guys get the point, right? The running game is really becoming more and more of a staple, I think, for a lot of teams, and it's great. It's a great return for what Philadelphia and Baltimore, ultimately spent on Saquon and Derrick Henry in the offseason, right? Big discussion about Saquon and him not going back to the Giants was the money, right? Some people thought it might be too much for a running back, but it hasn't, proven to be the case, right? Because he got $12 million a year, and for what he's doing and how important he's been to the Eagles, who knows where the Eagles would be right now without Saquon. I think he's given back already more than what his contract, suggests that a running back should be giving back. And, the same thing goes for Derrick Henry, right? For getting him at $10 million per year on that 2-year deal, 2 years, $20 million, that is for Derrick Henry, an amazing return on that investment that you made on a running back that's, considered old in this day and age to be on a historical pace like this. Yeah, like the running backs, the older ones really are making a difference. And that's also another thing, right? People criticize running backs or, devalue running backs, right, for being considered old or washed when they hit a pretty young age of 27, or anything past 28 is considered they're on the decline. But Derrick Henry has disproven that. Saquon has obviously disproven that at 27. Kamara's doing great things. He's 29 years old. So, that on top of just overall what they're doing so far this year has been great to see. And I'm not the only one that's, obviously saying it now, but the Athletics' Mike Sando even had an NFL executive sort of echo the same sentiment of what I'm talking about right now. And this anonymous NFL executive said, "I think what we're seeing here is that elite backs are still worth paying, especially if they contribute on third down, and then trying to reinvent the wheel to save a couple of bucks generally doesn't work. Again, I couldn't have said it better myself. This idea that the NFL is changing so much, everything is becoming modern and new, and the offenses have all these different intricacies, right? You still need to run the ball. You need a good running back. You need a good running game to be considered now, this day and age, a good team. Passing the ball so many times can only take you so far before you run into some hurdles, some struggles, right? I think there's more of a chance to find struggles in the passing game much more than there is the running game, obviously. And some teams I feel like are just trying to do too much sometimes with their offense, overcomplicating it, maybe thinking that they're not going to need a running back and having these hybrid running backs, these lighter, non-traditional running backs, right? You still need a good one to compete in this day and age, or have a couple guys that one can do one thing and the other one can maybe be more agile or more finesse rather than power, right? I feel like some teams are trying to do too much and trying to avoid the running game too much just so they avoid paying a running back that they are devaluing, essentially. So that's one thing. You can't not think about the Cowboys, right? Just going back to them, right? What Jerry Jones had to say about not being able to afford Derrick Henry. Could you imagine how much Derrick Henry would be helping that Cowboys team out right now? I think I saw today somewhere that the Cowboys don't have a single 15-yard run this year, and Derrick Henry has like 12 or something like that. Insane. That's even a stat, I guess, but that's one thing, right? So, and the fact that it's usually the older running backs that don't really get the respect financially, and Derek, Saquon, and Alvin Kamara are sort of pushing back on that with the kind of money they're getting, trying to get everybody else to realize that no, like, you need to pay these running backs because they're not just supposed to be thrown out, essentially, right? Once they hit 28, they still have a lot left to go. Especially these talented running backs that are able to do everything. They're not all the same, right? One gets hurt and they think all the running backs are the same thing, right? No, like, these guys are different. The Saquons, the Derricks, the Christian McCaffreys, kinda, he's hurt right now, but usually he is pretty durable. But this season has been a great example, kind of to show everyone, like this executive said, that trying to reinvent the offense really isn't so reliable as many people might think, and running the ball efficiently with a great and reliable running back is what everyone's trying to do nowadays, right? Or at least the best teams are, right? Because it's not any coincidence what Saquon's doing, what Derrick Henry's doing, and they got paid, so now you see everybody else getting paid, right? You see Christian McCaffrey getting his extension, Alvin Kamara now getting his extension with the Saints, Josh Jacobs got a pretty big contract this year, Jonathan Taylor got one. DeAndre Swift got another extension. I just mentioned David Montgomery. These guys are getting paid, and I don't think it's a surprise now or a coincidence that people are seeing the success that the running backs are having with these run-heavy teams, that now teams are starting to go back a little bit and reevaluating the situation at running back and maybe, spending a few extra dollars on keeping their guys. So I think that's great to see. And also you look at the Chiefs, who are still the only undefeated team. All their wide receivers got hurt, and for how everybody characterizes the Chiefs as being creative, unorthodox, they have all these crazy plays, right? But still, I think what they've done this year, trying to reinvent themselves in a way, right? Because Patrick's not having a great year. He's actually having a down year for his standards. So they sign a 29-year-old Kareem Hunt, and they become a run-heavy team with a good defense to back it up. And they just had a game where they scored 4 rushing touchdowns, and they're not a very pass-heavy team. That's why they went out and traded for DeAndre Hopkins, right? But they've really reinvented themselves because they've also realized that in order to be successful, barring the circumstances that they have to face, running the ball can get you to a 6-0. And I know not everybody has Patrick Mahomes, but he hasn't been playing great, and still they're 6-0 because they've relied a lot on their running game. They haven't been stubborn to the fact that the running game is important nowadays. And lastly here, just kind of to send this point home, you look at the top 5 passing teams, you know, in terms of yards and all those things leading the NFL. You have the Seahawks, the Cowboys, the Lions, the 49ers, and the Baltimore Ravens, all the top 5 in yards per game passing-wise, right? They have a combined record of 20-13 so far through the year. And then you look at the other side, the yards per game for rushing, right? The top 5 leaders in rushing yards per game. You have the Ravens, the Eagles, the Commanders, the Lions, and the Green Bay Packers. They have a combined record of 24-9. A pretty close record, but it makes a difference. And I think that is only going to continue to grow with this sort of running back mini revolution that we have coming back in the NFL. And anytime I kind of get a chance to say it, I like saying it because, you know, these guys should get paid. I think for how valuable they are and all the stuff that they do, kind of like tight ends, there's no way they should be getting paid around like $10-13 million per year. I know it's a cap-based league, right? And if you're going to pay them more, somebody else has to get paid less. But, you know, maybe that's something that they have to reevaluate, right? Just because they do so much. And again, the Ravens, for how good they are, if they didn't have Derrick Henry, I don't think we'd be talking about them as much as we are right now, considering them the best team in the NFL. It would just, you know, feel like they're missing something. So that is something that I thought was pretty interesting, pretty cool here to end the show on. And that will be the end of the show. Thank you guys for joining me. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the show, as well as following the network on all forms of social media. And if you want to see more of the live shows, they're weekday, every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to see just more content around the Chip Shot Football podcast, there's more YouTube shorts, individual segment videos on both YouTube channels for you guys to go check out. But for right now, thank you guys for watching. I'll be back tomorrow to cover more of the NFL as your host, Manny Maradiege, and we're going to review the Thursday night game as well as looking ahead to the weekend for the rest of the Week 8 NFL games on Sunday.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to